a well-known face about Kilmarnock, great player for the club that won the cup in '97, Dylan Kerr. Dylan signed from Rotherham in 1996 for Alec Totten. He made over 70 appearances, never scored any official goals, although he did score that goal against that team from the south of Symington. He started his career with Sheffield Wednesday, played with Leeds under Howard Wilkinson and won the league with them in 1991, is that correct?
And 1989.
And 1989. Dylan, your boyhood football, where did it all begin?
Basically watching my dad. My dad played local Saturday, Sunday pub football. Fortunately, I was able to watch a great bunch of guys play every Saturday and Sunday for the same team. Swinton Welfare Athletic Club on the Saturday and Swinton Working Men's Club on the Sunday. And because of the people that my dad played with, they just, for me, they were my footballing heroes as a kid. And I was luckily enough, I was able to watch every game that my dad played. He took me to every game. I went to Wembley as a young kid to watch non-league teams like some Matlock Town, Scarborough, who were playing in I think it was the FA Vars Cup games, because all the local players in them days, if they weren't professional, they played semi-professional, for which was the Northern Premier League or the Southern Premier League at the time. And I was just a kid that, from an early age of being involved with that, with them guys, just wanted to be a footballer.
Right. So, playing for boyhood teams, so you play for the school or you play for a youth club or?
The funniest one, we're talking about my dad's team, they only had 10 players, no, they had 11 players for a cup game, and I was only 11, and they needed somebody on the bench. So the kit man, the Sunday team said, Dylan, you're on the bench. I was only 11, and I got stripped and the sleeves were down here, you know, the shorts were touching the floor, but actually, I was actually a sub, a named sub for my dad's Sunday team, so I think it must have all kicked off from there, where I got the buzz of wanting to be a footballer. I played for my local team in Mexborough, where I was raised as a kid. I was born in Malta, but I've lived all my life. After 18 months, I lived in Mexborough and played with the school team, played with the school, my age group in the school, played with the elder kids at school on a Saturday, and I also played on a Sunday in the morning with one team, and in the afternoon played for another team. So basically it was just full-on football, and I'd wanted to be a footballer since, like I said, since my dad started taking me to football.
Who snapped you up for Sheffield Wednesday? Was it, you signed S forms with them? Or?
No, I was ignored by a lot of clubs. And there's an interesting story which I'll come to, which led up to this. When I signed for Sheffield Wednesday at the age of 16, I was the first YTS footballer to sign professional forms. And between the ages of 13 and 16, all my mates were getting signed up on S forms, on blue forms as we call them in England. And I just got overlooked every time. I was considered a good player but not good enough. And it was a point where all my mates were playing for this one local team called Rockingham Red Stars, and I just wanted so badly to play for him because it was all my mates were playing, and they were the best team in the area. And one of the boys' fathers, he was secretary of the club, and I knocked on his door one day and I asked him, if I could come for trials, and he just told me, no son, you're not good enough, you'll never play for my team. So that kind of if it killed me, I mean, it really upset me. And I went and played, signed for another team, played for a couple of seasons with them teams till I was 16. And then I played for my dad's team. He was in charge of the pub team that he played for on a Saturday. And I played one day, and the what we call the rub man, the bucket and sponge man, was a guy called Wilf. He was in his 80s, and his best friend was a former Sheffield Wednesday scout for Jackie Charlton, and he was down at this game, and we won 6-0, and I scored 2 goals, and I just had a blinder. Okay, I'm 16 years old and I'm playing against grown men, but he phoned Jackie Charlton up and said, look, have a wee look at this young boy, and he arranged a trial, and I got offered a trial at Sheffield Wednesday, but Jackie Charlton resigned and he took over the national team for the Republic of Ireland, and Howard Wilkinson took over the club, and I went on trial. I had 2 weeks pre-season training, but Howard Wilkinson liked to run the players a lot for pre-season. And I mean, we were doing 12 miles every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. We were doing 12-mile runs, and I used to hammer it. I used to always win them. And Howard liked my enthusiasm and liked my energy, because that's the players that he kind of liked to have in his squad. And he offered me a YTS contract, and apprentices got 2 years, but YTS, they only got 1 year. And I signed for them. First thing I did, I went down to that boy's house, tapped on his door, and his dad answered the door, and I just stuck this contract. He said, not good enough, eh? Stuck it in his face and walked away and left him with my contract. I don't know what his son was doing. I don't know what his son, his son never went on to do anything in football, but you know, that hurt that he made me feel when he told me I would never play for their team because I wasn't good enough. When I signed my apprentice professional contract, you know, I just had to, you know, nip down and prove him wrong.
So when you went to Leeds United, was it Howard Wilkinson again that took you towards Leeds?
Yes, I was. Well, my career, you know, I should write a book. I've been knocked down so many times as a professional footballer that, you know, I seem to always bounce back up. I've never really, because of, I think, missing out on all these blue forms as a young kid and never getting the opportunity as a kid. I never let it beat me. I always believed I was good enough. I just needed that lucky break. But when I signed as a YTS, my contract was up, and 3 months before it, Howard pulled me into the office and he said to me, I was playing central midfield, and he said to me, look, you know, we don't think you're a central midfield player. We think you could be a good fullback because of your energy, you know, and we're not going to offer you a contract, but what we're going to do is, for the next 3 months, we're going to try and help you to become a left back. It's up to you, son. And like I said before, you know, that you dream of being a footballer, to be told that you're not good enough to play in midfield, but we think you could play in a different position. You know, I had to prove them wrong again. So for that 3 months, I worked with players Nigel Worthington, a player called John Ryan, Mark Smith, and an ex-Everton Sheffield Wednesday legend called Mike Lyons. And I worked with them every day after training, before training. The assistant manager, Peter Eustace, who I didn't really get on with, because he was more of a flair player, where I was the grafter and, you know, put your foot in and type of player. But at the end of the 3 months, Howard pulled me into the office and he said, look, you know, we think you've proved us that you could play there, and you've worked really, really hard. And I signed my first professional contract at the age of 17. Then I thought I'd made it. I thought, you sign your professional contract, you think that's it, that's me as a professional footballer for life. And I became, in what now is, you know, a social media circus with Facebook and Twitter. In them days, you never had that, and I was going out with all these professional footballers who were big heroes and big superstars at the time, and I was in the nightclubs, I was in the bars, I was in the parties, I was going to watch you know, famous pop groups from Sheffield at the time, and I got involved in that professional lifestyle at 17 stroke 18 years of age, that kind of my football kind of stalled. And when my contract was up at the end of that year, Howard Wilkinson pulled me into the office and he said, look, we're going to let you go because we don't think you've done yourself any favours by, you know, being involved with the senior professionals. Don't get me wrong, it was a great year. You know, like I said, I met some fantastic people, had some fantastic times, some great stories. Yeah, that, like I say, if I wrote a book, I couldn't print half of them. Yeah, I got released, and kind of again, it was like when I was turned down from Rockingham Red Stars, that, you know, I found it, you know, quite hard to accept. I remember writing to 91 league clubs for trials, and I got 7 replies, and I spent 3 months going on trial, never getting a contract, and then I got a phone call from the youth coach at Sheffield Wednesday called Mike Hennigan, and he asked me if I'd like to go to South Africa to play. There was a club in South Africa that he knew the head coach, and the head coach wanted a left-sided player. And at the time, there was a football game between Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates. And as I was having this conversation, there was a game on. It was on the news. The two teams were kind of fighting because they were going to break away from one league, which was called the NPSL, to another league called the NSL. And one of the chairmen of, I think it was Pirates, he was a big, huge guy. The fans came and must have stabbed him, I think, stabbed him 87 times. And he survived because of his size. And it was live on TV, on the news, that this happened. And my mum and dad just said, no chance, you're not going there. And I said to Mike, you know, can you give me a couple of weeks to decide? He went, no, I need to know tomorrow because you're flying on Wednesday. So within 3 days, I sat down with mum and dad. I'm 18 years old, I'm going to leave the country to Southern Africa, and I just decided, you know, I wanted to be that footballer, and I left. Spent 3 years in South Africa, had an amazing 3 years, and then Howard Wilkinson used to take me back for training every Christmas. So I'd come back to England and train at Sheffield Wednesdays over Christmas and New Year to keep myself fit. He left Sheffield Wednesdays and went to Leeds United. I went to Ellen Road, as I did, you know, to keep myself fit training. They needed a left back because they were short of defenders. I think Glyn Snodin was in the first team, and they signed a kid called Mike Whitlow, who I'm still very, very good friends with now. And I played 4 reserve games, and I asked Howard what was happening because I needed to go back to South Africa. And he said, look, we know that you're a good name in South Africa, we think that could be your niche now. He said, you know, thanks for coming down and helping us. And shook his hand on the Thursday, shook his hand and got my boots on the Friday, said my goodbye to all the players. And I played for a team called Frickley Athletic against Droylsden in the Northern Premier League. They gave me 50 quid to play the game. I thought, you know, that's my weekend's money before I leave to go back to South Africa and go out for a pint with the boys. And we won 6-2 or 6-3. I scored 3 goals and I set the other 3 up. And there was a paper called the Greenham in Yorkshire it's actually printed, you know, straight after the referee blows the whistles, and it's out at 6:30, 7 o'clock. And Michael Hennigan, again, who was now his assistant at Leeds, he read the paper phoned me, and his words were, "I can't believe you've just nearly, I'm not going to swear, screwed up your chance of signing for Leeds." And I said, "Well, the gaffer told me I was leaving." He said, "No, he's changed his mind today because, we're really short on the left-hand side, and, he thinks you've done well enough to stay." And I signed a 3-year contract the next day. So whether or not that game against Royalston, or there was that shortage of left-sided players at Leeds, I ended up signing, and 2 months later I made my league debut against Brighton. And again, the story with that was I wasn't in the squad that night, and I went out with my friends, and my mum was on the bridge at 11 o'clock as I'm walking down to the local nightclub, and my mum said, "Howard's going to phone you, you better get home." So I literally ran, must have been 3 miles. My mum got the taxi, and I said, "Look, I need to run." I ran home, phoned Howard. He said, "Look, you're in the squad tomorrow. You're on the bench." And I came on with, I think, 30 minutes to go against Brighton, and yeah, started from there at Leeds.
You won the league with Leeds, or were part of the squad with Leeds. That must have been a great year, that year.
The first year was, we won the second division, the old second division.
Yeah.
And the way we did it, and this has been, and I'm luckily I've been involved with the likes of Sheffield Wednesday, Leeds, Reading, Kilmarnock, even Hamilton Hackies, and the team Arcadia in South Africa. They've always had a great team spirit. They've always had a great bunch of players. Something that I've continued to try and do that in my coaching career. We won the league, the final game of the season down at Bournemouth, which was, just a special day for every Leeds fan. And the next year, obviously it was the last year of the old first division because it was changed to the Premier League. And again, the players that we had, the additions that Howard brought into the squad, I didn't play that year. I was always 13th man. There was always one on the bench. And I never played that year, but I was always in the squad. I was always a big part of his plans. Gary Speed broke into the team that year. Jim Beglin joined. So even though I wasn't part of the first team 11 that played every week, I was always there at home games and away games as part of the squad. And like I say, it was just the atmosphere at that club. We would never have won that league had we not had the players and the talent that we did at Leeds. And
you also went on to Reading, where you played in the playoff final. Was it the first playoff final?
No, I think it was the second playoff final.
Right. It's been a great experience to walk out to Wembley in front of.
Didn't play.
Did you not play?
Didn't play. We'd won the league before. We'd won the second division the year before. I'd played in 95% of the games. We come to the semi-final of the playoffs against Tranmere, and the two managers decided that they were going to play a different formation against Tranmere. They were going to play with 3 defenders and 2 wing-backs. And we had a very good, quick wing-back called Michael Jokes. I think he was one of the quickest wingers, or one of the quickest players in the whole football league structure at the time. And they won both legs, and then we played the final, and I never expected it in a million years, but the night before the game, one of the joint managers, we had 2 managers there, one of the joint managers came down and he said, they named the squad, and he just pointed to me and he says, "Oh, you may as well go to the bar because you're not involved tomorrow." So again, as I said earlier, so many knockdowns, and that day particularly, it's your childhood dream. You want to play at Wembley.
Right.
It's your boyhood dream. You want to play at Wembley Stadium. And as I said, I went there as such a young boy, watching non-league football with my dad and all his pals. to actually play there and repay them by inviting them down and buying them tickets would have been probably the best highlight ever of my boyhood. And to say I was absolutely devastated, it was the biggest understatement ever. I sat on the bench behind the other joint manager and his assistant, and we were 2-0 up. We had a penalty. Stuart Lovell missed the penalty. We could have killed the game, and we ended up losing in injury time 4-3. And it was that season where they were cutting down the Premier League to another team, so only one team went up rather than two. So we missed out on automatic promotion, and then unfortunately we missed out on the playoff. One of the things that I'm always proud of is I sat on that bench and I tried my best to get behind the team. I was off the bench and I was on the side of the pitch more than I think the assistant manager. And at full time, just before we played extra time, I went all around the half of the ground where the Reading fans were, and I'm trying to get the fans, to get behind the team, because we were on his last legs. We'd done so well, but unfortunately, the playoffs are always, they always come up with some good surprises, but unfortunately, it weren't for us.
You then signed for Kilmarnock from Rotherham. Was that through Bobby? Did you meet Bobby at Rotherham? Was that how?
That was Bobby. Obviously, used to play for Rotherham a long time ago, and one of his friends is a police officer. He's retired now, and I used to have a drink with him in our local every now and then when he was off duty. And I went on trial at Rotherham. John McGovern and Archie Gemmell invited me for a trial, and I played a couple of reserve games. And John's a big Rotherham fan, and he said to me, look, Bobby's speaking to him, and he said, they've signed a left back called Gary Talon, but they weren't 100% sure that he was the right player for them. Would I like to come up for a trial to Kilmarnock? And I'll be honest, I didn't know much about Kilmarnock Football Club. I knew, obviously, the Celtic, the Rangers. My favourite team was when we were doing the pools as kids was Stenhousemuir and Stranraer, just because they were, weird names to me. And I spoke to Bobby. Bobby said, "Look, would you come up and play in a game and do a few training sessions?" I phoned Archie Gemmell and John McGovern, and they said, "Yeah, look, we think you should, go and check it out." And I came up, and they actually put me in Loch Green for one night. We played against Motherwell at Troon, and we won that game. And trained the next day, and then they asked me to play against Dundee United as a trialist. And I left Reading because I had a serious injury. I did the splits and ripped the whole of my hamstring off, and it kept me out for 18 months. Nobody thought I'd ever play again, because nobody's ever had this injury at all. But luckily I had a good surgeon who reconstructed my whole hamstring. It took me 18 months to get back, and I remember Gary Holt played left midfield. We played at Tannadice, and I ended up kissing the floor, after the game, because I never thought, I was told I'd never play again. And after that, Bobby and Alex brought me into the office and said, we'd like to sign you. Mr. Moffat Senior, God rest his soul, was a brilliant Kilmarnock man. I remember he said, "Look, this is all we're going to give you. This is all we're going to give you, son." And I went, "Just give me that paper. Give me that paper. I'll sign." Like I said, I didn't know anything about Rugby Park. I didn't know about Kilmarnock. The day I came into Rugby Park, I thought, "Wow, what a stadium!" And it is. It's an absolute fantastic stadium. And Bobby said, "Look, it's up to you. If you do well, you'll sign." And I signed for 18 months.
The season ended 97 in a high, obviously, in the Scottish Cup at Ibrox. But do you think the run-up where we were under pressure to stay in the league and survive in the Premier League, do you think that had a major influence in helping win the Cup the following week?
I think it was, like I said, when Alex Totten signed, when I signed for Alex Totten, it was kind of my first game at Rugby Park. I'm in the dressing room, and we had a groundsman called Gus Hollis, and bless him, he was such a passionate guy about his job, his work. We got on great, but we had a love-hate relationship. We used to fight a hell of a lot. And I always remember one day I'm sat in the dressing room when Alex Totten's not in yet, and I'm trying to remember his assistant. Phil Green, no? I can't remember his assistant now. And anyway, I'd come into the dressing room and all the players would be like looking at the watches. And I was like, there was Gus McPherson, there was Mark Riley, and they were all like taking bets. And I'm like, you know, and, anyway, I asked what the story was, and they said, well, they were taking bets on how long Alex Totten's team talk were. You know, it usually lasted 30 seconds. So it was that atmosphere, you know, in that dressing room, which was, like I said before, it's happened at all my previous clubs. We had such a good, as you call it in Scotland, good banter in the dressing rooms. We had a great, we didn't have big hitting players. Didn't have them at Leeds. Didn't have them at Sheffield Wednesday. Didn't have them at Reading. We had good, honest players that wanted to play for each club, and I said I was fortunate to be part of that, and that's what we had at Rugby Park. We had a great dressing room, and we all knew that the importance of staying in the Premier League. We all knew the importance of the Kilmarnock fans, the Kilmarnock town, and it was important that we continued to stay in the Premier League and get into the cup final. You know, that was just unexpected by everybody. Nobody fancied Kilmarnock whatsoever. And I thought we deserved to get there. The way we played, the way everybody and everything was against us. And that morning leading up to the final, again, it's like a dream come true. People say, oh, it wasn't played at Hampden. And true, it's the national stadium, you want to play at Hampden. But, you know, Ibrox was probably the second best place at the time. We had to play at Ibrox. I thought it was better for the atmosphere because the stands are so close to the pitch. And I remember I did an interview for Radio 1. They used to do a day with the stars on the Saturday, and it was question and answers. And we had a track that we used to always play when we went to all these big games, and they played it on Radio 1. They wished Kilmarnock all the best in the Scottish Cup. I think Chris Evans was a fan of Kilmarnock, but I think that came later with Mr McCoy's. And you know, you just wish we had mobile phones, or we had, you know, proper video cameras that you have now, because as Mark Riley said, and I was watching Mark Riley's interview, you know, that day up John Finney Street, and my only sad thing about that is my family was all in Droom, because I didn't expect that, because usually they do the celebration tour the day after, but so I didn't know. But when we were coming down the A77, and when we came into Kilmarnock, you thought, wow, this is fantastic. But when you turned into John Finney Street and you saw that, I mean, you just can't take it all in. And I know it seemed like an hour to get from the bottom to the top, but when you look back at it, it's like it just went 5 minutes.
One can I almost.
You know, and I just remembered, you know, it were more for the fans that we achieved that, especially being so long. And again, you know, even though it was Falkirk, nobody wanted us to win because we were Premier. They were First Division, and everybody wants the underdog to win. And I just wish I'd had a selfie. I just wish I'd have had a video camera, and I just wish my family, because I think I had about 150 family members come up from Yorkshire. They all came, and you know, it's
a great experience for them.
it was a great. Oh, they loved it. I mean, and they still to this day, you know, they still come and watch Scottish football. My cousins do anyway. They still come and watch Scottish football, and like I say, it's great to see all the photos on different websites or the ones that, you know, post them on Twitter or give them to on Facebook. But yeah, I do wish I had a proper phone which you could take selfies, and you know, remember Jim McIntyre taking his jacket off. You know, me and Holty were, you know, just and I remember there were 4 guys that came up from London, 4 of my friends. They're all Leeds fans, and we became such good friends. They came up from London, and they actually came on the bus after the tour, and they sat on the bus at the back of the bus with a cup, and it made their day. They were all dressed, suited and booted, and they came to Kilmarnock for the night. But everybody knew they weren't from Kilmarnock, so they actually crapped themselves and they left and went to Glasgow. They thought they were going to get hammered, so they all left. But but no, like I say, it made their day. I remember I took after the game, I'd taken the trophy out of the stadium. I took it and we were outside with all the punters, and everybody thought, where's the cup? And we ran the streets outside Ibrox, and you know, with the Killie fans. Like I say, it was their cup. You know, we did it for them. You know, some people say we should have kept our shirts on after the game, and some people wanted to do the sponsorship through sports division that day. I didn't. I left my shirt on. I wrapped it around my shoulders, and I put my blue wig on. And one of the biggest things was I'd won a cup final where 2 years previously I'd been released by my former managers at Reading, and I kind of had a swear word on live on Sky, just through pure emotion and, you know, the adrenaline of, you know, winning a Scottish Cup medal.
Another cup final you played in was the Ayrshire Cup final. 2-0 down at half time. What did Bobby say at half time to change the game?
He went ballistic, and that's the only time Bobby lost it. I mean, he went absolutely mental at Holty, at Marsh, at Melly, sorry. He went mental at me. He just lost it. He actually, I think the hinges off the door came off because he slammed it that hard. He was absolutely raging. We're at home. We're playing the big rivals. As I say, they've won bleat all and never will, and Bobby just he was angry, you know, because, you know, we deserve better. We should have played better, and we all went out, we all got together when Bobby had left, and we all just looked at each other and thought, wow, where's this come from? You know, he's never in the
I don't know if I remember, he once said in the radio that people out with Ayrshire don't realise how big the Ayrshire derby is. He says it's just pure hatred because there's no religion involved, and he said that on radio. So he obviously, having played in the games, realised the importance to Kilmarnock and their fans of that game. So they obviously let you know at half time that day.
Well, it was it was like I say, we knew we weren't playing well. You know, it was the Ayrshire Cup final. You know, even to me, it didn't register how important it were. It was, but like I said, when he came through that door, he slammed that door. I think it just, you know, rocked off the hinges. And yeah, second half we went back out and we pumped him 4.
Now we've got to ask, that goal and that celebration, the aftermath, what happened?
Well, I'd just signed that day. I'd signed my new contract. I'd come in early in the morning, and I'd just agreed my new contract with the club. And Pat Nevin always said to me, he says, don't overlap me. Sometimes go inside. And you know, Pat used to be gifted. He could do things with the ball that a lot of players still can't do. And I remember this one time, I gave him the ball, and instead of going round, which I would have done, I went inside. He gave me the ball, and I planted one in the bottom of the corner, and I didn't know what to do. I just kept running, and I saw the wall, and I thought, oh, again, here's the fans, and I jumped over the wall. I think I broke the seat, and I just celebrated with the people who were in the Moffat stand. And then as I came out, you know, the referee booked me for the celebrations. And then after the game, who was the chairman who took over? Sir John O. He was the superintendent. And he said, can you come and see us tomorrow at Air Station? You know, and they told me off, gave me a slap wrist and said, don't do that again, because that kind of thing could lead to a riot. And basically I just said, well, I'm sorry, but you know, the emotions of scoring against Ayr United, you know, and my one and only goal at Kilmarnock, I just enjoyed it. It was, to be fair, it was a cracker goal to the outside of the foot, and I still wind up Gordon Dale to this day, you know, so every time I see him, I'll always remind him. And I saw him at the Celtic game, he was on the radio, and I always, did I remember that goal? Gordon, did you give me a mention on the radio? I'm not going to repeat what he says, but you know, it's that banter.
For a long career, Dylan, who was the best player you either played with or against?
I can't really say any individual player that I've played with, because, like I said earlier, I've played with some great players at all my clubs. So it won't be fair to single any individual player that I've played with, because they've all been fantastic players. They've all been their own character, their own talent. So it's a difficult question to answer. The easiest one I can say, every player I've played with has been, you know, fantastic. Against, I would say, being a left back would have to be probably the most 3, 4, 5 players really. One, of course, he was my captain at Leeds United, which was Gordon Strachan. He was just unbelievable as a player. His attitude, his work ethic, his enthusiasm, and in training, you know, even at his age, where he was getting on a bit, I hope he doesn't mind me saying that, he was fantastic. I've been fortunate to play against likes of Di Canio, Kanchelskis, but Brian Laudrup, I think, was probably the best player I've played against, because he could do things before you'd even thought about them. And my first game at Ibrox, I'm in the tunnel, and Ali McCoy's, as his cheeky self would say, tried to wind me up, and he said, hey Ginger, you know, I'll get you your plane ticket back down to England after what Laudrup does to you today. And we went out in the first half, and I actually got a torrid in the first half. I just couldn't get near him. So second half, I went out and I just stuck to Brian like glue. You know, so they basically, if they had to play the ball to him, they had to play it behind. And I came off, and I felt really, really good that day. And I said to Coisty, I've saved you some money there, haven't I, man? So I would like to say, you know, that I said played with 4 or 5 good players, but I would say Brian Laudrup, just for his strength, his pace, his agility, his skill, his quickness of mind, because like I said, he would knock the ball past you, and before you'd turned, you know, he'd gone. Di Canio was different, you know, his temper got the better of him, so the first thing you had to do when you're playing against Paolo was kick him. So he lost his temper, and usually got a yellow card, because he'd go to the referee and complain, and that kind of silenced him a bit, you know. Kanchelskis was the quickest player to play against. He was lightning fast, Kanchelskis. So yeah, I've managed to play against a lot of good players, but yeah, I would think.
You're obviously now a coach yourself, having coached around the world. Who was the best manager you played under? Who was the biggest influence? Or have you taken a wee bit from every different manager?
I've taken, well, you know, I've played for Howard Wilkinson twice. I played for Mark McGee at Reading, played for Bobby Williamson and Alex Totten at Kilmarnock, Ali Dawson at Hamilton Accies. I played with Peter McCormack when I signed just briefly at Morton. But I became a coach at 18 in South Africa. When I moved to South Africa, I started coaching kids over there, in the townships. Because we were only part-time, we were only training twice, 3 times a week. And I became a coach because of Howard Wilkinson. So I would say I've taken a little bit off each individual coach and assistants. Because Howard had a good assistant, Mark McGee had a good assistant, Jerry McCabe and Jimmy Clark, they were good assistants. Robert Pritz was an assistant at Hamilton Accies. And you take a little bit what you think can be good for you and you keep that. But I would say Howard Wilkinson gave me that impetus to start coaching at an early age. I did my B licence when I was 19 in South Africa. Sorry, it was my preliminary licence in South Africa. When I came to England, I did my prelim course in England. Then I went, and when I came to Scotland, I started to do the Scottish FA's coaching badges were regarded as the best ones in Europe. And when I started to get to the end of my career, I started aiming towards my B licence first, and then obviously my A licence, which I got with the SFA. But what I took from Howard was the whole package. That doesn't matter who you are, you're still a footballer, and you're still like everybody else. Nobody's a superstar, nobody's a big hitter. He didn't sign anybody that he didn't think would gel with the team that he's already got. He brought players in that he knew they could add something to that squad. And in my 2 coaching roles, that's what I've tried to do, and it's worked. I've never really signed anybody that's been, a superstar or been as we call them, a bad egg in the bunch. So Howard Wilkinson, I think, gave me the vision to be a football coach.
And finally, it's been a long, hard season for us Killie fans, suffering, seeing the team not doing so well. A message for Killie fans, Alan?
I think wherever I've been, I've enjoyed the support of the fans. I've tried to become one of the fans. I'm a massive fan at Kilmarnock. When I go to the games, it's just great to see all the smiling faces when they see you, and or they know that you might be there. You get messages on Twitter, you get messages on Facebook. They're just fantastic fans, and I hope yesterday's result gives them that drive to try and get into above Hamilton Accies or whoever it may be, and miss out on that automatic relegation spot and that playoff place, because the playoffs are not a good environment to be in, especially when you're playing a team lower below you, and possibly a team that you beat 20 years ago in the Scottish Cup. Yeah. So the fans are, I'll just say, hey, I'm Killie till I die, and it's tattooed on my leg, as most people know. One of the proudest things I've done, even though I can't remember getting it done. Me and Gary Holt decided to go and do it, and I ended up, doing it myself, and I'm proud of it. I'm proud to have signed for Kilmarnock. I'm proud to be at Kilmarnock, and I just like to say, Killie fans, thank you for sharing everything with me, for being part of my footballing life and my coaching career. And like I said, Killie till I die.